Okay, that is taking its time to work here. Great, welcome. Any moment. Sure. You have the script? Oh, fantastic. Thank you. My hero. Yay, Jonathan! There is change. There is a change coming, a big change, and it's coming soon. As you heard already, the Unitarian Universalist Association will soon be using new language in the bylaws that speak to our purposes, our values, and sources of our faith. The new language will replace the principles, purposes, and sources that have been used for nearly 30 years. Nearly 40 years now that I think of it. Now, some of you might be concerned that we're replacing these 7 principles that have been so important in our lives. And you might be surprised that this is happening. And you might even be upset that it's happening. And all of this is very valid, very reasonable reaction to the change of something that has been foundational in this faith for so many years. But I want you to know that this isn't a quick decision. This isn't something being decided for you. It's not being decided without your input. It may feel like your specific input isn't being asked, but thousands of Unitarian Universalists across the country have had input in this. A team of beloveds from all over the country have been working for over 3 years to create this new language with the input of all of those thousands of UUs. In 2020, the Article 2 Study Commission were charged with starting from scratch to do a comprehensive rewrite of part of the bylaws that hold the purposes of the organization. In June of 2021 and in June of 2022, the Commission brought the proposal to the General Assembly with language to reflect on, and they asked for extensive feedback from the Assembly, from congregations, from individuals. This most recent June, they brought a proposed language that we're hoping to use to the Assembly and invited amendments to it, which some were accepted. So those amendments brought in, the assembled body decided to move forward and study this proposed language for 1 more year before voting next June's General Assembly to make it official. Okay, so that's a lot of insider talk. And if you don't know any of that, that's fine. But all you need to know is that we're going to be talking about it this year. We're going to be talking about the proposed amendments. We're going to be talking about the values. We're going to be talking about it so that everyone gets a chance to feel like they understand what's happening before this change is made. This year, the monthly themes that we get from Soul Matters are focused on Article 2 to give us time to explore these in our services and worship. So, in essence, I'll be doing a year-long sermon series about Article 2. You'll be tired of it by the time it gets to June, I promise. But if you are interested in going even deeper than a sermon series can get you, reach out to me because I do have a 4-session class that we can get into together and explore really the meaty details of all of it. So last month, our theme was welcome, speaking to the ways that our faith prioritizes radical welcome. And this month, the theme is heritage, which asks us to look at the past to make sense of our current moment. So this theme is reflected in the proposed wording as we speak to what has come before us to help shape us as a denomination and will help us to lead into what we will become. In the future months, we'll be looking at the values of justice, equity, interdependence, generosity, pluralism, and transformation. These are the new values that speak to our faith. These values are not numbered in a list like the principles, but they're meant to be intertwined and interchangeable in the order that you use them. So to make this clear, they envisioned like a spiral or a pinwheel to show what it was that they prioritized. And I saw that they have these pinwheels at the dollar store almost every spring. They don't have them in the fall, apparently. So keep your eyes out, I'll bring them in eventually. But as you can see, the pinwheel spins around the center. In fact, because they love this image, an artist created this visualization to accompany it. It became clear that each value has in common the central message of love. So they describe these values and this image like this. We mean the type of love known as agape. It is the selfless love of the neighbor, the friend, even the enemy. It asks nothing in return. More than a noun, love is a verb. It's creating justice. It's transforming our world. It's being generous of spirit and our resources. It is knowing that we are all interdependent. It is upholding everyone's dignity and worthiness. It is celebrating our many differences. The pinwheel image is so great. It's there to remind us that none of these values are over the other. They're all connected to love. Love is at the center. Love is at the center of our faith. It is the message of this congregation and the message of Unitarian Universalism. It is even the message of Christianity, which is the forebearers of our faith, which is, of course, according to the teachings of Jesus in the New Testament. And love is what holds us and heals us when we're struggling. Love is the message and love is the center. And that means we are bound to treat each other as if each person is inherently worthy of love, inherently worthy of maintaining their dignity. This doesn't mean that there aren't people who are difficult to love. It doesn't mean that there are people who don't maintain their own dignity. But it does mean that even the most disreputable politicians and even the most evil villains deserve to be held accountable for their actions. It also means that they deserve to be fed and clothed and given medical attention when they're sick. It means that if they need to be removed from society to protect the world from them, yes, that is an act of love. Because when we have agreements on how we are to be together, also known as covenants, we show love when we hold people to those agreements. And the beautiful thing about a covenant is, unlike laws that encourage punishment when they're broken, covenants allows others to invite us to return to relationship anytime that we break our agreements. One of the major elements of the new bylaws is that each value is followed by a short sentence of explanation and then a longer phrase, explicit language of the covenants we keep to hold us to that value, to live into that value. For example, the value equity, we have a short descriptive sentence, which is, we declare that every person has a right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness. And below that is a longer statement on how we as a denomination, as congregations, as people, agree to be together in covenant with equity. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. Each value reminds us that we are in covenant, and that covenant is centered on loving relationship. We love many different people with many different needs. So we want to build communities that anticipate the needs of the folks that we want to come in the doors, the folks we want to welcome. So we covenant to make our building accessible to folks who need to have it accessible, who have mobility needs. We covenant to make our community welcoming to families of many different configurations. We covenant to make our community a place where people with limited resources feel included in our activities. We covenant with each other to make room for the people who need us in their lives. This has long been our heritage as Unitarian Universalists, to be in covenant, covenanting to be association of congregations, covenanting to hold each other accountable to the values and ideals that we share. It all started with the Mayflower Compact way back in 1620, when the Pilgrims, our religious ancestors, agreed to a covenant on how to govern themselves when they arrived in the New World. They understood covenant as it was written in the Hebrew Bible, a promise between God and humans, but also between people, a promise to do what was best for everyone. They practiced this in the churches they established, and eventually it became the core values of Unitarian churches. Functionally, although covenants have been part of our heritage for more than 400 years, we don't always do the best at embracing accountability. It doesn't feel good to be told that we're breaking our promises, especially unintentionally. It doesn't feel good to be caught doing something naughty, and shame is easy to come by, even when someone speaks about our misstep with love. Also, upper middle class white people don't deal well with our imperfections. We just don't. It's not good. We got to learn how to do better. Luckily, this year the UUA is hosting a common read of the book On Repentance and Repair, Making Amends in an Unapologetic World by Rabbi Dana Ruttenberg. It helps us to embrace our mistakes by taking responsibility for them and taking the steps to repair the harm that others have experienced. And to live up to our covenants, we need to do this all-important work, because love is at the center of covenants, it's at the center of our communities, and at the center of our new values statements. And as Sara Ettinger titles her poem, love is an intransitive verb. Here it is. Martin says he's been thinking about the flag and how he's come to understand it not just as an empty symbol. What he loves about it, he says, is that it can represent all of us, what the promise of America could be. He wears it on his sleeve like the badge of the patron saint of lost causes. We all want to help one another. I've been thinking about him, thinking about the flag. I've been thinking I want to be a person who loves the flag and loves thinking about America. I want to love so much of this misshapen and misbegotten abundance, the tattered, bug-ridden underbelly, rats in the subway, garbage dumps that wash up on beaches as dunnage, the shell hash, the bacteria that invaded my grandfather's blood, turning it septic, my mother's uterine metastasis, threatening my own genes like a covenant. I want to love the politicians, the people who want to vacuum the carbon out of the air, the billionaires and celebrities who jet off to space instead of solving world hunger or poverty. I want to be a person who can love others without putting myself into it, the way the sun embraces the world and highlights its imperfections. Here's a cracked, abandoned cement wall. Here's the withered ancient ivy snaking up its shabby back. Here's where the thick vines ruin the view of the window, the outline of jagged stained glass so you can't see the world outside anymore. Here's where ivy grew. To be able to love the world in all its ugliness is what we covenant to try to do as much as we try to make it better. May it be easier tomorrow than it has been ever before. Amen.